there's a question out there that I think there are very strong answers on both sides for, and I would like to answer it myself. Should the Steelers draft Jordan Addison? Will they consider it? And is it a bad move? What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackline. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talk or anywhere you get your podcasts. And today I'm answering the question, and one that's already been answered. I mean, this is how I got the idea to come on here and talk about this. Is I was reading through Jerry Dulac's questions or answers, his chat at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and I have to say that Jerry Dulac is the most respected Steelers insider there is. There is nobody out there who gets more and knows more about the Steelers than Jerry Dulac. You know, that guy deserves all his flowers, should always get his flowers, and I want to make sure that that's very known, that Jerry Dulac is the G, and he's got my respect wholeheartedly. Now, he was asked, hey, Jerry, do you think that the Steelers will want to pair Addison and Pickett even though wide receiver isn't a top need? The answer, nope. And if they do, shame on them. The Steelers will likely consider pairing Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett. I'm not saying that they're definitely going to, but they will likely consider it. And there's a number of reasons why. I mean, I've been asked multiple times in the past 24 hours, are the Steelers going to add another wide receiver? Do they need to add a wide receiver? Is Steven Sims and Calvin Austin and Gunnar Olszewski enough at the end of the depth chart? And I think that's where you start here. You start by looking at the Steelers' current roster and saying, Deontay Johnson is still a true starting wide receiver, no matter what your opinion is of him. The guy is still a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. He's not somebody you get rid of. I have other opinions about his pay, and I think that he fits perfectly with what he's getting paid, but, you know, not everybody agrees with me on that one. Either way, it's hard to deny that he's a starting wide receiver in the NFL. George Pickens is a guy who's 21 years old. He has to work on some stuff and fine-tuning his game, but he's so young that you can't expect everything to be there. Besides that, he is headed towards elite status in the NFL. The guy is a star in the making. He has no catch radius. I mean, it is very, very apparent that this guy can easily turn into the next Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or whoever. You have guys like Steven Sims and Gunnar Olszewski who made a name for themselves late in the season, should likely return next year. Calvin Austin, who still hasn't played a snap, but there are very high expectations for him in 2023. And then receiving options elsewhere in Pat Freiermuth, Connor Hayward, Najee Harris, and Jaylen Warren. They already have a pretty loaded wide receiver option. But do they want to add another one? I've said before, and I'll likely say again, I think that the Steelers have two names at the top of their draft board right now. One of them is Joey Porter Jr., the other one is Jordan Addison. And I think both of them are for the same reason. They're very talented. They're first-round talents. They have high expectations in the NFL. They have all the physical tools that you want. And they have relationships and glowing recommendations. Joey Porter hung out around the facility for the first time I've seen him ever in my 5 years with the team. Joey Porter was hanging out around the facility all the time. And I thought about it all the time. Just, I wonder if he's here to just kind of like, you know, hey, what's your son been up to? Hey, you know, this about your son, that about your son. And just give glowing references. And then when it comes to Jordan Addison, I mean, you could just ramble off what the two have done together, he and Kenny Pickett, and that should be enough. 149 catches, 2,072 yards, and 21 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Jordan Addison took home the Blitnikoff Award. Kenny Pickett took home the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. He won ACC Player of the Year, and they were both named All-Americans. That's pretty impressive. That's enough, right? No, it's not. Because I think what puts Jordan Addison over the edge, and if the Steelers did draft him, this is why they would draft him, is because Kenny Pickett knows how hard of a worker this guy is. On Cam Hayward's podcast, Not Just Football, Pickett was asked about Addison, and he goes, I think the most impressive thing about him off the field is that his attitude, how he attacks work every single day, how he was so eager to get in the film room every day with me, and he never missed a throwing session since he was a freshman at Pitt. For 2 years straight, he was always there. And when your number one receiver is doing the right things, everybody else follows. So it was easy to get the room right when Jordan was in there. I mean, that's exactly what the Steelers are looking for. They've made that known time and time again that they are looking for good athletes, but they are looking for leaders. They are looking for people who are willing to put the work ahead of themselves. That's why Najee Harris was so predictable to go to the Steelers. That's why Kenny Pickett was the choice at 20. That was, the reason guys like Alex Highsmith ended up here, Deontay Johnson ended up here and has stayed here, because Deontay Johnson, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, is a leader in that room and everybody talks about it. That's why guys like, everybody, Kevin Dotson speaks. James Daniels was so important to get in here. TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward. There's a million of them on this roster. To add another one, the Steelers would be licking their chops. Super excited. Art Rooney would lose his mind to know that that's who he's getting in a draft pick. But that doesn't necessarily justify the move. We have to go back to Jerry Dulack's answer of shame on them. Nope, they will not do it. I don't know if they'll do it. I could say this, that yeah, adding a star wide receiver and making sure that at bare minimum you have 3 guys that are just true-blooded, headed for superstardom feels great. Gives you really strong Cincinnati Bengals energy. Then you have Calvin Austin and you hope he pans out, and then you're feeling really, really good about the situation. But at the same time, there are other examples around the league that show you, well, if you go a different direction, it's going to work out just as well. If you do things like the Philadelphia Eagles do, where you just pound the rock and pound the rock and pound the rock, it'll work out. But you have to build an offensive line. And the Steelers have 3 pieces to their offensive line, but they need the other 2. And if you go and attack the left side of your offensive line and you get some guys that you could build with and who are rookie stars already, the future looks very bright. The last time the Steelers were very, very good, their offensive line was very, very good. That's hard to ignore. You can't ignore that. You can never ignore what an offensive line can do. You can never ignore what a true secondary can do. And if the Steelers want to bulk up their cornerback room, you can't say, no, that's a bad idea. That's a good idea. It makes a lot of sense for a team who wants to live and die off of defense. I think it's justifiable either way. I think long-term success, you don't go wide receiver. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would look at it and say, yeah, Jordan Addison's really good. If he's there at 32, you grab him. But if he's there at 17 and you got a better option, you go with a better option. I could also see it going the other way. And I think there's a strong argument the other way as well. You've seen what guys can do. You got a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback now. You do everything you can to invest into that guy. I think a left tackle is more valuable than a wide receiver. And I think that if you're looking at a quarterback standpoint, a left tackle is way more valuable than a wide receiver. But if you want to bring in his favorite weapon and make sure that no matter where he throws the football, somebody who can make plays is on the other side of that, then feel free to do that and feel good about it. But I don't know. I think that the Steelers could go either way with this argument, and it makes sense and it works. I think a lot of people are going to be very upset about that. And I think that we will split the fan base. I think that if you draft Jordan Addison, you're going to get a good chunk of people that say, that's dumb. You need a left tackle. You need a left guard. You need a cornerback. You need an inside linebacker. Who's playing next to Cam Hayward? There's a lot of questions. But I think that if you don't, and then guys like Steven Sims digress and Calvin Austin doesn't work out, then you're worried. And then you're sitting around going, all right, well, Jordan, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens look good, yeah, but there's only two options outside of Pat Freiermuth that you could throw the football to. I would say that's a big if. And I could see where Jerry's coming from with this because that is a big if. For the Steelers to walk into 2023 right now, I think they have enough receiving options to be very successful. But adding talent's never a bad thing. Mike Tomlin says it constantly. I'd rather have more options than none. Yeah, true. I think that argument could also be made at cornerback and could also be made at left tackle and maybe interior defensive line. But wide receiver is a good one too. I think Jordan Addison's the only name that could break that mold and say, hey, you go wide receiver in the first round and you could justify it. If it's outside of him, it doesn't make any sense. But I don't think Jerry Dulac's wrong. I'm not going wide receiver in my first pick. If they do, I'll give them credit if it works. If they don't, I think they're taking we are very concerned about the entire football team and not just the receiving core and following a trend. The Steelers don't follow trends. They never have. They never will, which makes it very hard to believe that Jordan Addison has a big star around him, like no matter what, we're going to go get him. I think that if he's there and there's nobody else better, they'll go get him. But I think they're going to try to make arguments with a lot of other players when Jordan Addison's name is sitting there at 17.